Well, a question you might have today, if you're in the real estate market, is does a seller have to pay a buyer's brokerage? This is David Buck with Harcourts Island Real Estate, and I have now been licensed since 2001, dating myself 24 years in the business. And a lot has changed in our industry, especially as of August 17th this year, 2024, with the recent National Association of Realtors class action settlement. So part of that settlement is that for us as realtors, as of August 17th, we have to have a buyer's rep agreement signed with a buyer client prior to showing property. Now, this is not something that has been a standard of practice throughout our industry. Some agents have decided to do that. Well, myself, I always thought of like a two-way trust factor, so I didn't always make my clients sign one of these. However, I just want to tell you a first-hand story is recently today, I had several showings set up for a client in Kaka'ako as well as Waikiki, and we're going to see a handful of relatively newer condos. And they're all good with signing it as of yesterday. And then today they said they want to cancel because they don't feel that this is right. Well, unfortunately, going forward, any buyer that wants to see a property and wants to work with the realtor needs to sign one of these buyer rep agreements prior to looking at property. So I just want to put that out there, and those are the expectations going forward. And as we started this off, does a seller have to pay a buyer's brokerage? No. And I think that's the fear that comes out here when a buyer has to sign something and worrying about the seller not wanting to pay a buyer's broker. Well, it turns out of all the listing or seller's agents that I called when I went ahead and made these cancellations, every single one of them said their seller is willing to pay a buyer's brokerage. So even though they don't have to, the standard of practice in our industry for over 100 years has been that the seller does pay the buyer's brokerage. So they see value in that. And that's why I feel that a lot of this is going to continue the way it has been. Now, as far as what's being offered by the seller, that is negotiable. It could be, I'm not gonna give you any numbers here, but it could be as low as zero to what they feel comfortable paying. And over the years, it's kind of been balanced out what works and what doesn't work. So I think going forward, I just want to get that out there because I know there'll probably be other buyers out there in the market as well as sellers like, do I have to pay a buyer's brokerage? And my recommendation would be yes. All the listings that I currently have for sale, they are offering that compensation because they realize that value on the other side of the coin. When you have an agent representing a buyer, it creates a separation of agency. And so in our industry, 90% of the time when you have lawsuits, it has to do with dual agency where it's the same brokerage representing the seller and the buyer. So it's good to have representation on either side. And that's why it's been our standard of practice. But yes, going forward, anytime we show a property as a realtor, we need to get a buyer's rep agreement signed. So I just want to share that with you because we're now just over a month after that started. I've already closed. I got my first deal closing where I've got a buyer's rep agreement signed. They signed today. We're closing next week. So that's the standard practice in our industry moving forward. I just want to get that out there. And if you have any questions about buying or selling real estate here on Oahu, feel free to give us a call at 808-371. Oh, someone's calling already. 808-371-3509. Mahalo.